What's up, everybody? Welcome to News, Games, and More, IGN's daily live news show. I'm Damon Hatfield, and I will be your guide today for, what is it, October 5th, Monday, October 5th, and I honestly cannot believe it is October now. It feels like July in my head, in my heart. Anyway, today I am joined by a delightful cast of characters. Destin Legary is here.
Bam! Hi, everybody.
Hello, Destin. Jonathan
Let's talk about
Dornbush.
some news.
Yeah. And Michael Swaim is joining us here.
I couldn't hear Jonathan. Hopefully that was an anomaly.
That was me.
Oh, great.
Sorry, I'd pressed the button on my mic.
You fell for it, Swaim. The classic.
The NG plus trap. Yep.
Yep. No, we're gonna have some fun this afternoon. Lots of interesting little news, delicious little news tidbits to discuss today. We finally know when we're gonna get to play that free Ghost of Tsushima DLC. Cyberpunk 2077 has gone gold, which probably means it's not going to be delayed again. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remaster is officially real, and a few more topics. But first, we have to share what we were doing gaming-wise over the weekend. Jonathan, did you play any games this weekend?
I did, even though it feels like it was so long ago. I continue to play Hades every day. It's sort of become my nightly ritual to do a Hades run before I go to bed. Obviously my dog loves that. And then I also started playing, I can't talk about it in like full detail because of embargoes, but I think I can say that I've been playing this cool looking upcoming indie game called Iconfell, which is basically like a pixel art old school RPG set at a magic school. Totally original like concept and everything. So I'm just in the early phases of playing that. It comes out later this week on everything, I think.
Cool. And what platform are you playing that on?
I'm playing it on Switch.
Cool.
Yeah.
Michael Swaim, play any games this weekend?
Oh, yes, indeed. Much like Jonathan, playing a lot of Hades. I have logged an embarrassing number of hours and runs. I think the average people are saying online is like 30 something. I got my first escape on 71. So I'm terrible at it, but I love it. And yeah, I made it, and I've made it 2 times since, and I'm on like 150 some escapes. I really enjoy it. I've been breaking that up when I just feel like I'm too frustrated and I need a breather. I've been doing RE3 remake because I did RE2 remake right when it came out, and then I felt like I needed a little more time to sort of forget, what it feels like to be chased by a giant zombie before I wanted to do it again. And now's the time. So now it's RE3, and it's going great. I love Carlos. His hair is phenomenal. Everyone was right. Yeah.
I like Carlos. I had a lot of fun with RE3, but would you agree it doesn't feel as significant as RE2, the remake? It doesn't feel like there's as much game there.
I'm like 10 hours in, and it does feel there also is a little bit of cutting corners feel, whereas RE2 felt like really buttoned up from floor to ceiling. I think they did try to just get in real quick with another one because they had a surprise hit, but still certainly fun to play through and brought back fond memories.
I liked it a lot. And if you're 10 hours in, you should be on the back half of the game, probably.
I think so.
And I really liked the final boss fight in that game. I thought that was really fun. Destin, what games were you bamming over the weekend?
I had a wonderful, exciting weekend playing Doom, actually.
Doom Eternal?
Caveat. Yeah, Doom Eternal. Caveat. I played it in 8K on a television. I'm trying to mess around with 8K capture for IGN right now. Managed to maintain like 55 frames per second, but it is nearly impossible to capture 8K raw right now. You can do 8K 30 using NVIDIA, so I was messing around with a lot of tech stuff. I also played a little bit of Destiny on a monitor that I'm reviewing for Bo that I don't know if I can talk about, so I won't say too much. But
you just did.
Well, I can say I'm reviewing a monitor. I don't know what else I can say, but yeah.
First time
I'm dealing with a lot of tech.
First time reviewing a monitor, Destin?
Yeah, I haven't really reviewed a lot of tech before, so I hope I do a good job and I inform our audience to the best of my ability. That's my goal.
I've also been playing a lot of Hades, but I've also been playing a lot of Super Mario Brothers 35. Mario Brothers 35. Super Mario 35. Whatever the official title is. And I'm very pleased to announce that just today, just this morning, I got my first W in that game, Super Mario 35. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sure chat is erupting with congratulatory messages for me, but let's not make this whole show about me. This is about the news, the games, and the more. So let's begin with the news. We heard a little bit a while ago that Ghost of Tsushima would be getting free DLC in October, and now we know that the Legends cooperative mode is out very soon, next week, October 16th, the Friday of next week. This will add a new online cooperative multiplayer experience that features 2-player story missions and 4-player survival missions. But that also brings improvements to the single-player campaign as well, including a new game plus mode, which is music to my ears. They're adding additional trophies, a ghost flower merchant. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Jonathan, did you platinum this game?
I did. So new trophies sounds really good
Yep.
to me. I'm very excited about that. Sony this generation has made like a pretty good habit of adding in new game plus or like harder difficulty modes post launch and kind of eventizing those additions, which you could say like, well, why weren't they for launch? But it does add this nice beat to like want to come back to it after I've beaten it.
Yeah. Do you happen to know what's being added or changed in the new game plus mode?
Yeah, so the ghost flower thing is one of the bigger ones that I can get to.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I can start with that. So basically, when you go into it, you'll still have, I believe, all of your charms that you had from the first run. So in any mission where you would have received a charm, you get a new type of flower, which is a ghost flower, and you can bring that to a new ghost merchant who has a brand new line of dyes for you to buy, basically. So they're trying to find a way around that. You also get a new horse that is exclusive to New Game Plus only. So you can get that as well. But then I think there's also some additional like enemy difficulties, like they change a little bit of their behavior, and I'm trying to check the full blog report, but there's new upgrades for the sword, bow, and armor. So trying to add a little bit more to that, the customization and everything in there.
And I imagine you're starting the game fresh with all of your upgrades and equipment that you completed the game with.
Yes, yeah, you start with all of that stuff, and it starts you right after, or basically right when it kicks you into the open world section. So it's like the beginning of the game, for those who haven't played, is a little more narratively focused, and then it opens up. It basically just kicks you right to the part where it opens up.
Well, this is all a great excuse to revisit Ghost of Tsushima, one of my absolute favorite games that I've played in a long time, actually. Swain, I forget, did you play much of Tsushima?
I played a ton of it, and it really won me over from a place where I was leaning against it, honestly, when we saw the initial teaser trailers, just because I had a really rough time with Neo, and I wasn't ready to like go into that realm of punishment again. But I think like a lot of gamers, to my delight, it really carved out its own niche. The combat's very unique, and it just felt so awesome and arcadey. It was the opposite. It was like a breeze to play. It was delightful. I got like 4 or 5 trophies away from platinuming it. So this is my excuse, I think, to go and push through and get those 4 and then get the remainder. And I can't wait for the co-op, honestly, because I'm stuck trying to get all my friends to play Spelunky 2. And I got to be honest, I know you love it, Damon.
Yeah, I do.
A lot of modern gamers are like, it feels old fashioned to me. I cannot get my friends to do the co-op with me. But I know a ton of people who will jump at this opportunity. So I'm really excited, especially for those co-op survival missions.
Michael Swain, I will play Spelunky 2 co-op with you.
Please, absolutely.
If you're playing on PS4.
I am indeed, yeah.
Because I actually haven't checked out the co-op yet. So
it's a whole different beast. You can lift each other and sabotage each other. It's great.
Cool. Let's make a date.
Please.
Destin, I've got good news for you. Did you know that the Legends DLC for Ghost of Tsushima is adding a raid?
What?
Which is something that I know you like to do in video games.
Raids are a lot of fun. They require a lot of preparation time usually in games like this. This one seems like you can kind of get into it a little bit quicker. Yeah, I'm definitely stoked to try it out with friends.
And once again, the free, I can't stress that enough, the free DLC, Legends DLC for Ghost of Tsushima is out next Friday, October 16th. I'm going to check it out. Let's move on to another a 2020 game that is not out yet. Probably the most hotly anticipated game of the back half of the year. Cyberpunk 2077 has gone gold, which is a term that used to mean a lot. Now I think it's more of like a convenient PR beat, a reason for a publisher or developer or a PR company to remind everybody that this game is coming out very soon. It used to be a term that meant that the game was feature complete, they could start manufacturing it and getting it into retail. But of course, now games come with day one patches, so the team will continue working on Cyberpunk 2077, polishing that up in the run up to release, which is probably what they're going to be doing with the mandatory overtime that's recently been enacted in the 6 weeks or so leading up to the release of Cyberpunk 2077. What's our sort of read on this game? Like I said, it's very anticipated. But there's also been some, a little bit, maybe say light controversy around it, especially with the mandatory crunch that's been enacted. Jonathan, how are you feeling about this game today?
I'm very happy for the team that has gone gold. Like you've said, it's one of those things where it used to mean a lot more than it does today because there is the nature of day one patches and probably, day 3 and 4 and 5 patches that often come after launches, especially with games this big. And so the teams will have to continue working regardless, but it is a nice sort of milestone, I think, for them. And as you said, it's a nice way to remind people, hey, this game is coming out in just a few months. This game probably necessarily didn't need that reminder. It's definitely, I think, we're getting commercials during NBA games with Keanu Reeves in them. They're probably pretty safe on the awareness level. But for me, it's definitely one I'm excited for. I actually haven't really played The Witcher 3. I only played maybe like 10 or so hours of it. So like I don't come from a CDPR background of it. But I know the pedigree they have, and I'm very excited to see that because it does seem like there is such an emergent narrative design they're trying to go for. Like they're really trying to push forward the idea of like you are going to be living in Night City. Like this is going to be a really investive experience. It is not just a first-person shooter where you're running around a fancy techno city. It's a deep narrative, ambitious thing. So I'm excited to see what that means. I haven't been blown away, I think, to the level that some of our coworkers have. But that's just, I think, a personal preference for like, it's not the type of story I'm usually excited for. So it's more one I'm just excited to finally get to, and it's only a few more weeks away.
Jonathan is, of course, on our news team at IGN. In addition to hosting Podcast Beyond, he writes a lot of news articles for us, which is what I was hired to do 100 years ago at IGN. I was a news writer. And back in those days, I guess right around the launch of the Xbox 360, there was a press release for every single game that was coming out going gold. So we would write up a news story for any sort of beyond AAA, even like A and B titles. We wrote up a news article about this game has gone gold, which meant at the time the game was finished, was being manufactured. Swain, can we share? I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but can we share what you thought going gold meant when we talked about this in our morning meeting?
Oh yeah, I think I made the mistake that I hope some other audience members made so that this all tracks. But I thought it meant selling X amount. I mean, in this case, I assumed it was pre-sales. But let me ask you this. Is there a term for making a lot of sales in video games these days? Like, is there even a phrase, or do you just say they sold X amount? And as you answer that, I have to go get my dog real quick, but I'll be back in 10 seconds.
Well, you're going to miss the answer, though.
He doesn't care about the answer.
The answer is there's not an equivalent to like going gold or platinum in music. Gold, I believe, is selling like 100,000 copies of an album. Platinum is selling 1 million copies of an album. Jonathan, there's nothing like that in video games, right? You just announce, Ghost of Tsushima has sold X million units, something like that, right?
Yeah, there's no equivalent, especially because there's no standardization anymore for getting numbers. Like with Xbox this generation, they just stopped announcing consoles sold halfway through the generation. PlayStation will announce milestones for big games. So like when they pass 2 million, if it's a significant number in the first week or something, 10 million they'll announce. But like with NPD, we don't get numbers anymore for specific sales. So it's definitely up to a developer by developer case when we hear how much they sell and if they want to say it at all.
Yeah. Destin, how are you feeling about Cyberpunk these days? You excited?
It is going to be quite the game. I cannot wait to play it. The preview that Miranda did for us, and I think Ryan got to play it also, but I know Miranda did for sure. They enjoyed it quite a lot. I cannot wait to dive into Night City, explore it, and do all sorts of terrible things to the characters in that world. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this game. I love The Witcher 3. Really have a lot of confidence in CD Projekt and interested to see what they can do in a sci-fi cyberpunk setting as opposed to medieval fantasy. Swain's back.
I am indeed.
The answer is no. There's no equivalent to like going gold or platinum in video games as there is in music. They just sell X amount.
Well, I propose that we coin the term a swame, meaning asking a dumb question and then just immediately bailing.
Well, there are no dumb questions on NG+. I think that I thought that was interesting this morning because, like I said, we used to write about games going gold all the time, but I thought maybe it occurred to me maybe not everyone out there knows what that even means. Anyway, it should mean that Cyberpunk 2077 should arrive on its release date November 19th.
Yes.
As I look to my screen, yes, November 19th. Let's move on to another game that's coming out in November, although it's not a new release. It's a game that I very much enjoyed on the last generation of consoles on my Xbox 360, which is even more surprising because I'm not usually a racing game fan. However, I am a crashing game fan. The game is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remaster Edition has been rumored for a while, and it's now officially confirmed. That one is out on November 6th for PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, $40, and then a Nintendo Switch version is coming on November 13th. It's getting updated visuals, all of its DLC, cross-platform multiplayer, and more. This is a game I loved because I love Burnout. I'm not really a fan of racing sims like Forza or Gran Turismo or Dirt, but I really like crashing cars. And crashing cars is a lot of fun. Burnout has kind of gone away, but this game satisfied my my urge to crash cars. It's with illegal street racers and police, and you can play both sides and force the other cars, whoever the other side is, force them to crash off the road into, I guess they called it like car crash porn back in the days, because there was lots of like slow motion zooms in of cars being just mangled and twisting and turning and doing a million flips. It was great. I love this game. I'm happy to play it again. Did anybody else play it back in the day?
I did. This is actually one of my favorite racing games of all time. So I'm
great,
really,
right?
really stoked about this remaster. I played Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit
Yeah.
way back in 1998, and I would
Yeah.
mod it because you could download like a mod tool and increase the weight of cars. You could get like semi trucks in there, so
Wow.
you could accelerate even faster, hit other cars, and then just send them spiraling through the air. And it was just such a fun time. Like even the base game was already super fun. So you add this addition of modding the game to do things it wasn't supposed to, and it was just an absolute blast. And yeah, Hot Pursuit 2 was in 2002. And then, I think Most Wanted in 2012 was when they started to, or maybe 2010, they started to mess around with the franchise again.
The
Damon?
Hot Pursuit was 2010,
Yeah.
so it's 10 years old.
Yeah, very excited about playing more of this game. I love the Hot Pursuit series.
Have you played
specifically within Need for Speed?
Have you played Underground, Destin?
I did. I think I played the first one quite a bit. When did I stop? I played the crap out of Most Wanted. Pardon the unnecessary swear. But yeah, I played that one a lot. I'm just looking at the list right now. Need for Speed is just a really, really fun series. I'm glad they're sort of going back to the best hits with this one.
I noticed in the comments on our article that a lot of people were saying they'd rather get a remaster of Underground, which is interesting. I just haven't played that one. Hot Pursuit's the one for me. Michael Swaim, have you played Need for Speed Hot Pursuit?
No, I'm right in line with you though on the Burnout games. I super love crashing over racing, so it seems like I got to check them out. Let me ask, is the mechanic the same where like the larger and more intricate the crash, the higher your score, or how do they handle it?
Well, no, Justin, maybe you can remind me.
Or is it more
of
just
this.
adversarial and like beating?
It's
X
more,
number of cars?
because
It was
there's
time
different
trials
types,
and
there's different
Okay.
types of objectives. Like when you're the police, you're trying to stop the racers pretty much any way you however you can. And I don't think like the seriousness of the crash gets you more points. I don't remember that.
Gotcha. But
I had to-
asymmetrical adversarial racing that's an undermined genre. That sounds awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I did play Underground actually, Damon. I had to look it up, but I played it on console, I believe, and I also played it on PSP. I think it was a PSP game around launch. It was pretty cool that you could run that on a little handheld.
Yeah, for sure. Jonathan, I know you're a kart racing fan.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about races like arcade and sim racers?
I don't get on the. I love kart racers and more arcadey stuff. I don't go too far on the other side of the spectrum. So like Gran Turismo is a little too much for me. Forza Motorsport, but like I'll play Forza Horizon. I've dipped in and out of Need for Speed. I think I played Hot Pursuit for all of 20 minutes. Like I remember the tutorial, and then if you ask me about anything else beyond that, I can't tell you. Most Wanted's probably the one I played the most. But yeah, it's one of those series where like it itself has had so many attempts at revitalizing it. Like it keeps coming back as if there were problems, but then people do love some of them, and then they kind of make a misstep. So this definitely has always seemed like one that people really love that I just missed out on for the most part. So this is actually one I'm excited to jump into for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's very cool to see this one coming back. Justin, you seem to be the biggest Need for Speed fan among us. Did you see the movie?
No. No, I did not see the movie. But
I don't know if
didn't
I
it
know.
star somebody like a really big name?
Aaron Paul.
Yeah, and I remember that.
That's like think what he did right after Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
Breaking Bad, then Need for Speed.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Hey man, whatever.
Yeah.
It has potential as a movie franchise. I'll say that. Like with Fast and the Furious and everything. I'm surprised it didn't take off.
If the Wikipedia is to be believed, Michael Keaton was also in that movie.
That's what I just Googled. It's true.
Wikipedia is never wrong. You're not able to type false information into Wikipedia.
Absolutely.
In fact. We're moving on. Jonathan, you're since you're our PlayStation guy here, the world of PlayStation in Japan has been rocked.
Yes.
Rocked to its very foundation. Nothing will ever be the same for PlayStation in Japan because the confirm button is not going to be the X button anymore. Or wait, it's not going to be the circle button anymore. It's going to be the X button, just like we understand it. Am I getting this right?
Yes, yeah. It's been, I think, 26 or so years. The circle button has been the accepted form of, like correct or input enter sort of button. Whereas for us, it's always been X. So that seems to be the default is now changing with the PS5. The PS4, at some point, I forget if it was there at launch, but did introduce button remapping and everything. So theoretically, PS5 will probably have that at some point, though we don't know for sure. But I'm assuming you'll be able to, shift those buttons around. But yeah, it seems like a small thing, but it is like that is the standard they have lived with since the PlayStation began. So it's a weird thing to have to come accustomed to right out of the box, I'm sure.
And I guess to clarify, it's like when we use our PlayStation 4s and we're on the menu, we press the X button to launch a game. But in Japan, they press the circle button to launch a game. And now that's changing. Well, like Jonathan pointed out, it doesn't seem like a big deal. They have 26 years of muscle memory built in. Although, isn't it weird that on the Nintendo Switch, you press the equivalent of the circle button to like launch a game? You press the A button. So we're already, living in those two different worlds.
Well, and on Xbox, I think the A is where the X is for PlayStation.
Yes.
Of course, the X is in a different place on the Xbox compared to the PlayStation. So none of
yes.
Yeah, there's a little hand math to be done every time you shift back and forth between them. I just thought it was really interesting. Yeah, Twitter user, I guess, pointed out that, the O symbol has become like synonymous with okay, correct in Japan. And yet here, I would say counterintuitively, X does mean no, don't. But I just never thought about it till today, this moment, that all these years I've been blindly pressing X, no, don't, when I mean yes, do it, go. And yeah, it's just an interesting shift. I gotta say, I'm glad I'm not the one undoing the 26 years of muscle memory, but I hope it's not too much of a hurdle. Yeah.
Yeah, as Jonathan pointed out, you're probably going to be able to like remap those button settings within the UI. But Jonathan, why do you guess they would be changing that now after all this time?
My guess would be something to do with also the sort of corporate restructuring Sony has done. I think it was last year where they sort of announced this, or earlier this year. I don't know how time works anymore. But Sony went to sort of a more worldwide approach to their like company structure. And so rather than, I think Jim Ryan has talked about this in interviews in regard to Sony, they used to have, like totally different focuses when it came to Japan versus Europe versus America. And now they can kind of just have everything centralized and focus worldwide. And if they need to make local changes, they can. Granted, why they're making this local change, I don't know. But I think this seems to read to me as the like trying to unify everything across the world when it comes to PlayStation. Because such big markets do use the X button that way. Maybe they're like, okay, we just need to move Japan over to this. But I don't know why beyond that you would make this choice.
Well, I wonder if previously the rest of the world is all pressing X, but then for all the consoles that they sell in Japan, they have to go in there and tweak the settings just for that territory. and now they can just ship the same console worldwide.
Yeah, very true.
That's just something that occurred to me. Destin, pop quiz hotshot. Is it the X button or the cross button?
X.
That's correct. Is it the circle button or the O button?
Circle.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I refuse to use technical jargon that's invented.
Well, I mean, it's all invented. Let's talk about
Deep.
Let's talk about, it's actually not a Japanese game. Let's talk about a Chinese game that is making a lot of waves right now that I have downloaded on my PlayStation 4. It's ready to go later on tonight after I've put my son to bed, but I have not gotten to play it yet. This is Genshin Impact, and it is the free-to-play Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild like. That is apparently pretty good for a free-to-play game with gacha mechanics. I've heard from a lot of people that have been enjoying the game, spent a lot of time with it, and haven't spent a dime. But apparently some people are, because we had a news story today that it's apparently made $50 million since its launch last week. Jonathan, I know you haven't played this yet. Have you been following this and the sort of like the surge in popularity for this game that just came out?
Yeah, definitely a little bit, because it started out in this weird place where when it was in preview, everyone was just like, oh, they're just copying Breath of the Wild because of the look of it. People were very much like, oh, it's just copying Zelda. And as it's gotten toward release and we've gotten to see previews of it, and now it's out in the hands of everyone, it's clearly a different game with just a similar aesthetic. And for the most part, especially talking to some people on staff who have been playing it, people really seem to like the user freedom it gives you, and that it doesn't really seem to force those microtransactions on you. I know someone who's played, I think, for over 90 hours and hasn't had to pay anything. So it definitely seems like a game you can really invest in, and there's, from what I've heard, the combat mechanics are very elemental based, and it lets you really craft your focuses to the elements, like to the abilities that you like the most. So it seems to be going over pretty favorably.
Yeah. And actually, our news story, we had some quotes from analyst Daniel Ahmad in our article today. I thought this was pretty interesting. He said, while the distribution and monetization model for Genshin Impact are already accepted in China, the game is popularizing AAA, free-to-play, and gacha games in the West. Developer miHoYo has worked to ensure that gamers can play the title without needing to pay to progress, while still being able to monetize from those who want to pay and obtain the best characters and equipment earlier. It's an interesting idea to think about, because we know our audience is very resistant to free-to-play games, loot boxes, microtransactions. These are all dirty words to our audience. So it's interesting to hear about a game popularizing AAA free-to-play gacha games. It's a game as a service. Destin, you have a lot of experience with games as a service. What's your sort of feeling about? Do you get a sense that things are changing and gamers are going to be a little bit more open to the idea of free-to-play games?
I think that what has changed is the monetization model for games like this. Usually it's cosmetic items and clothing and things like that. Like even Destiny has adopted this model, and a ton of Destiny players have come into Genshin Impact. So yeah, I think they're becoming more accepting of it. Like Apex is free to play, Fortnite's free to play. Fortnite kind of hit that peak where so many people were playing it. It was like cool not to like it, at some point, but it still has like millions and millions of players, and it's just making Epic tons of money. Same with Apex, like, and Call of Duty even has Warzone has a free to play edition now. So I think those games are widely popularized, and if it's handled properly, it seems like people in the gaming community are just accepting of it at this point.
Michael Swim, is there any free to play game that you would say you've really, really enjoyed?
Honestly, no. And I think that is why they get a bad rap, because, or I would say not like super loved, because I do resent the feeling of being sold to while I'm trying to just purely escape and immerse myself in this world. And I also feel like too often the games that do, actually I thought of one, I'll name drop one, but the games that come from a place where they're saying, oh, we can make so much money if we structure it this way. Usually the gameplay is an afterthought, because the human brain is wired in such a way that you can make millions of dollars with idle games and things that aren't really like Angry Birds. There's something special about Angry Birds, but I would still argue it's more of a thing that hacked our brains and made billions of dollars by just sort of killing a lot of time in a pleasing way. And if you're gonna go pay to play, at least it's admirable that they went AAA with it. Like, if you're gonna structure this thing in such a way that it's constantly generating funds, hey, at least it's a really ambitious game. So I am open to the proposition. The one I'll name drop is a phone game called Calculords. Full disclosure, I'm friends with the guy who made it, but
Sean Baby.
so that might have biased me, Sean Baby. And I greatly enjoyed. It was like a CCG phone game, and I ended up buying all the card packs, and I didn't resent it at all, which is unusual.
I didn't even think about card games. Yash in chat is saying that Warzone, Fortnite, League of Legends ruined gaming, but is it really the games to blame when they're so widely popularized and played and people are spending money in the store? Is it the game's fault, or is there some responsibility on the players themselves and how often that we end up spending money in these stores and such? I personally play Destiny all the time. Destiny is a free-to-play game. I buy the expansions, and I have not ever spent a single dollar in the store because I don't like that type of model particularly. But at the same time, the company does need to make money to keep their servers and everything online. It's definitely a difficult balance, not only for game developers to walk, but also for us as gamers to consider. And do I think that they ruined gaming? I would say no. I think it's a more complicated, loaded question than that should be dived into with a little bit more responsibility.
Yeah, of course they didn't ruin gaming. We're just talking about how Ghost of Tsushima, an amazing open world AAA single player game, paid single player game, is getting free DLC content this month.
Yeah.
With no microtransactions.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to address that comment in chat because I do hear that quite often, that these games have just a negative connotation to them. And I definitely think it's just a larger conversation than that. It's not that simple.
Yeah,
you know?
I would agree.
Yeah.
My free-to-play vice is Hearthstone. I play Hearthstone every day. I've played it for years every day, but I've never bought a card pack. I've only bought the single-player expansions that come out every now and then.
Nice.
So I've managed to get a lot of enjoyment out of that game without spending money on cards. I want to say something to Michael Slaney's point. Angry Birds, I think you were a little dismissive of. I actually loved Angry Birds at first for a long time, and it was not a free-to-play game. And I loved Angry Birds Star Wars, and I have really good memories of playing.
That's true. Maybe Two Dots would have been a better,
Maybe,
or a pachinko machine. Do you see what I'm getting at, though?
Gotcha. Yeah, I think so. Okay, and finally today, our final story: Dune. The Dune remake film has been delayed into 2021. It was originally supposed to be out this December. I know, Michael. I know. It's supposed to be out this December. And unlike other movies that were supposed to be out this fall and we're sort of delayed into the first half of 2021, it's been delayed all the way till next October, like a year, just less than a year from today, October 1st, 2021, which is also the same day the Batman is supposed to be out. So one of those movies is going to blink for sure. Swaim, since you were the most visibly upset about this, I'm excited for this movie because of the director. I've never read the Dune books or seen the original film, so I don't really have a frame of reference. But what's your sort of experience with Dune?
I've read not all of the books. There's more than you'd think, but I read the first 3 or 4, and they certainly made a huge impact on me as a young man. And I weirdly love the Lynch debacle one. That one was also good by me. But it's like you said, I'm not even going to attempt his name. Villeneuve is such a talented director that I tend to just follow directors who have given me massive mind-expanding experiences and trusting them. Edgar Wright falls in that camp. Chris Nolan, other great directors I could name. And I think Denis definitely rises to that level where I'm just excited to see his vision and his personality overlaid on this classic story. To me, Dune does rise to the level of epicness of like a Lord of the Rings or a Star Wars. And man, I could definitely use a fresh one of those to tide me over. At the same time, I fully support the decision to delay it however long they need to delay it, because as someone who makes videos, not right now, but normally, my job is literally to physically be by people taking photographs of each other. So I cannot fathom the challenges. Every time $100 million movie gets made, we tend to forget this because it happens a lot, but it's a miracle. Like, just that it was finished is miraculous. And I can't imagine what they're having to deal with now. So I completely understand it. And yet at the same time, breaks my heart a little bit. I
Wait,
want the thing.
Are you assuming that it's being delayed because they can't finish it, or just because there's not going to be enough theaters and people willing to go to them?
Probably it's just a sustainable, like, carrying capacity of potential ticket sales they're going to get. I think that shooting for next year is a pretty responsible call. It at least feels far enough out where if things turn a certain way and they delay it again, you'll understand that, well, that was far out. It was fuzzy. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sad, but I understand, which I think is going to be the consensus opinion for the bulk of people on this.
Yeah, I think so. Delaying it to a year from now sounds like a long time, but it's, as hard as this is for people to hear, it's probably a more realistic target for when, movie theaters can reopen safely and people start to feel good about going to theaters again. Jonathan, is this a movie that was on your radar?
For me, it was the same thing as you. My good personal friend Denis Villeneuve. I love his work. I saw Sicario in theaters way back when, and that was just the most enthralling thing. And then he's continued to impress. And so for me, not really knowing anything about Dune, it's him and this cast and like the potential for all of that I'm really excited for. But yeah, absolutely, it's one of those. I think the worst thing that some of the movie studios have been doing, like WB, were these like intermittent, oh, it's delayed a month, oh, it's delayed 2 weeks. And it's better to just push it out there, because I think those conflicting dates are both bad from a like publicist side of things, where you keep having to adjust this. And then it's also confusing for viewers. So people who were looking forward to this movie had a lot of buzz. People can know that, hey, we're not going to be seeing it for at least, a year. So I think that's the responsible move to make, especially since WB is probably considering some tough stuff after Tenet, has not performed probably how they wanted it to. And so they're probably readjusting their entire slate.
Yeah. We keep hearing about theaters facing closure. I believe Regal Cinemas is the second largest theater chain in the U.S. will be closing all of their theaters. Destin, do you think it's like, is it a real possibility that this could just be the end of movie theaters?
That would be a huge bummer. It's hard to speak to what's going to happen because of the COVID epidemic and how that's going to impact businesses. But a lot of people have had to adapt. We've had to adapt. Restaurants have had to adapt. Bars have had to adapt. The coffee shop down the street from me, like, it's all about keeping people safe and everything. And we've been continuing that for so long now that we're going to start to see the adverse effects of businesses that aren't able to adapt, like movie theaters would have an exceptionally difficult time adapting to that. And it is unfortunate to hear. It is an experience I really enjoy, but yeah, I don't really know what they would have done. I am curious why they didn't just keep the original Dune movie. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, no reason to remake it. There was a movie that I was aware of as a kid, but I never watched it. All I knew is that Sting was in it, and there are giant sandworms. So it always seemed kind of cool to me, but I've never seen it. Should I watch it, Swaim?
It's a blast. Yeah, even though you wouldn't call it a good movie, it's like a ridiculous spectacle.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, let's say this. The villain at one point rips a pustule off of himself, crushes it in a device, and drinks it.
Cool.
So it's that kind of, it's Lynchian, as they say.
And then watch They Live.
I mean, I watch
good double feature. Yeah,
I watch They Live every year.
They Live gave me nightmares as a child for many years. That movie freaked me out so much. But anyway, that's why I have trust issues.
They Live is amazing. Okay, before we go today, is there anything I can clean up in the chat? Let's see. Mario Madness says maybe drive-ins will make a comeback. I know that's a lot of pivots theaters are making. They're putting in a drive-in theater in the marina here in San Francisco.
That's been really cool to see.
Yeah. James says the audio seems quiet on our stream, and then in response, somebody said that we are using the Tenet audio filter on our show today. Tenet is apparently a quiet movie. And then someone else is asking, Darius Martin is asking, so what's the release date for Ghost of Tsushima? That's the first story we talked about at the top of the show, 4:00. But in case you missed it, it's next Friday, October 16th. That's going to do it for today's edition of News, Games, and More. I have been and continue to be Damon Hadfield. Thank you to Destin, Jonathan, and Swaim, and everyone in the audience for hanging out with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, with more news and more games. Everybody have a great night.